From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Hi everybody, Scott BREEN here. Coming up, a story every parent needs to watch. How lessons learned from the struggles of some of today's top athletes can save lives in our own homes.
I'm CONLON. Today was one over 8 years in the making as Landon's legacy breaks ground on their miracle field. The historic ceremony coming up.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us midweek. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, school superintendents across the state face difficult decisions, angry parents, and some even threats as they maneuver through rising COVID numbers and mask mandates. Tonight, we check in with School District 2 Superintendent Greg Upham, who's also finding support. Well, the numbers are already adding up. After the first week of Billings Public School, School District 2 reports a total of 61 positive COVID-19 cases last week. Here's a breakdown. 16 elementary students, 15 middle school, and 18 high school students for a total of 49 COVID-19 positive students. Added to that, 9 elementary, 1 middle school, and 2 high school staff members across the city. That totals 12 adults. COVID-19 is real, and it's spreading throughout our school district and our students. Q2's Mitch LAGGE checked in with Superintendent Greg Upham, who says he'll do whatever he can to protect our kids.
According to new COVID-19 data, wrapping up last week for Yellowstone County, the virus continues to circulate and increase in numbers, particularly infecting school-aged children aged 0 to 19. In the week ending August 28th, school-age kids accounted for 21% of the county's 676 new cases. Billings students and teachers are now in their second week of school, with masks required to be worn inside school buildings. The Billings schools have reported 49 total COVID cases in students and 12 cases in staff since the start of the year. Billings School Superintendent Greg Upham said this year's total is already nearing a high of 71 cases reported in the fall of last year.
I mean, it's doing what we anticipated it would do, which is, one of the reasons that we wanted to mask early. We're going to watch it. The case counts, school-age case counts are rising rapidly. It's concerning, and we'll do the precautionary measures that we've always taken and do the right thing. We'll just continue to just work with this virus and do our best with it.
The question of whether face masks should be required or optional in schools has drawn out differing opinions across the state, with Governor Greg Gianforte and the state health department issuing a rule on Tuesday, encouraging school districts to consider public comment before making masking decisions. Upham said the Billings schools will continue to require masks until case numbers drop. Information
from DPHHS said should, and so we didn't see it as a mandate. And so we'll definitely take those considerations, those items under consideration that were shared in that information, and we'll continue with our mask requirements until the numbers come down.
The rule, in effect for 120 days, also noted students should be able to opt out of health mandates due to moral convictions, religious reasons, or mental or physical health-related reasons. Upham said the Billings schools are offering virtual learning to students who wish not to wear a mask. About 71 students so far have enrolled in that virtual learning. Over the start of school, Upham said only a handful of students have refused to wear their masks in class. The deadline to get signed up for virtual learning is September 3rd. Last week, 3 Billings school staff members were placed on 5 days of unpaid leave for refusing to wear a mask. Upham said on Wednesday that 2 of the staff members have returned to work. One has resigned. Billings, MTN News.
I checked in with Yellowstone County health officials who showed me the data. At the beginning of the 2020 school year, people under 19 made up 12% of all the new positive COVID cases. At the same time, this year, that number is 21%.
Hello everybody, I'm CONLON. For the last 8 years, we've watched Landon's legacy grow from an idea into a force. Maybe you've played in one of the golf tournaments. You've certainly seen one of the thousands of car window decals across town. But maybe you've wondered what it was all building toward. The answer is today, at the groundbreaking of Billings' first ever all-inclusive Miracle Field.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. It was surreal last night. It finally hit me that we're actually doing this. We're not just talking about it and asking people to help us, and it's actually happening.
Marcie Smith founded Landon's legacy the day she wrote her son's obituary, June 6, 2013. It was his dream to be a baseball player, but life never gave him that chance. The Smiths vowed they wouldn't let that happen to anyone else in this community.
Landon knows now that this is his. But now my way is for all the kids in the future and the present that finally get to play and have fun and be normal and be happy.
The groundbreaking marks phase 1 of the project that will be done in connection with infrastructure improvements to Poly Vista Park. Smith hopes to have the field surface down and ready for all to use by next spring. It will be just the second miracle field in the state. The other is all the way up in Kalispell, so it'll serve a huge special needs population. One the Billings Park system is finally helping.
I would like to think that we have jump-started the city on doing the inclusive playgrounds, because there was nothing, absolutely nothing here. And now I'm hearing the word inclusive more. I'm seeing more stuff being done.
Take one look around today's groundbreaking, one of the most heavily attended in Billings history. Landon! And you could see what this project means to all.
You have forged a path for your son's legacy to bring joy, space, movement, and play to countless children, adults, and families who have not had a river of their own. This community has shown me so much love and support that I could never thank any of you enough.
I've learned about people and how amazing they are and how much they give and how much they care. I had no idea how much people cared in this community for each other. To Landon!
Here's to Landon! Casey Conlon, MTN News.
Rimrock, a local organization who helps with mental health and substance abuse, purchased a 90,000 square foot building, which they plan to turn into a treatment facility.
Well, this is an exciting project that we've been working on for over 2 years. It's time for Rimrock to really start looking how we can meet the needs of people that are suffering from substance use disorder or mental health issues. And expansion's necessary, and this land here will give us the room that we need to provide the services and to grow further. This location could not be better. It's really close to the hospitals. It's close to other sorts of businesses that our clientele need to access. It's close to public transportation. There'll be ample parking, easy accessibility.
Rimrock has been in the current building for 40 years and say it was time for a change. In Billings, Brandon Warren, MTN News.
Well, we now bring in Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. September, I can't believe it's already here.
That's right.
How's it looking compared to August?
Well, first let's start with August and take a look at some of the numbers, because that was kind of topsy-turvy. We started off with much warmer than average temperatures. It actually hit a high of 100 degrees on the 16th, and then we ended up with mountain snow as much colder air started to move in, and we actually ended up about a degree cooler than average for the month. And for Billings, it was the third wettest August that we had on record. It actually came in number 2 for the wettest August for you in Livingston. For the month of September, right now there's no major influences. We're leaning towards warmer than average and drier than average conditions in western Montana, but the eastern plains, no big influences. We'll take a look at the weather forecast coming up in a few minutes.
More and more, we see the world's most successful and accomplished athletes openly revealing stresses of mental health. Simone Biles at the recent Olympics, tennis player Naomi Osaka, NBA, WNBA, NFL. But the stresses are also very real right here in the grassroots level, in our own schools. Our Scott Breen shows us.
Some are more hesitant to seek help. There's something there. There's definitely stigma.
Danny DESIN grew up not far from Rocky Mountain College, actively involved in sports. Now he has a master's degree in sports psychology, and he's tracking a doctorate.
We've used mental and mental toughness in describing athletes for a long time, without much explanation on how they develop the mental toughness. It doesn't happen because they're zapped with the right genetics all the time. There's people working with them in the background, and it is definitely the background.
In short, we all struggle at times. We just don't necessarily show it to the world, or even to our closest friends or parents. Might be the nervous depression of a new school year, or the anxiety of a fresh sports season among middle and high school aged kids. This is a recent Saturday morning in Laurel, with several hundred turning out in support of Sam's Run. Sam Melling was an 8th grader who loved running cross country before taking his own life 6 years ago this November. His cross country teammates asked then to honor him with a memorial run. His family, humbled, collaborated to turn that idea into an awareness run.
The average onset is 14 years old for a mental health condition. So those are our kids. Those are those kids in middle school and in high school.
Sam's Run is part of an outreach compelling kids, friends, and parents to notice different triggers for slumping mental health.
That's what we saw with Sam. He had a couple of concussions just back to back, and then his personality changed, and that was right before he died.
Natural anxiety and depression, even without concussions, are hard to spot in young people. And the more physical the sport, like football, the easier it is to often overlook. A message not lost on coaches.
Mental health is kind of that silent illness that people do a really good job of making sure that everybody knows that they're okay when really they're not okay.
I gave a stat that said almost 15% of kids in 7th and 8th grade attempted suicide in 2019 in Montana. Those are staggering numbers to me.
There's ups and downs. We've got injuries and kids aren't playing as much as they want to, and we lose football games. It's all about trying to find a way to motivate and lift people up when they're not feeling very good.
The anxiety of performance and having different people in the stands, the triggers are different for every single athlete.
Because things like starting back to school and some of those other triggers can really exacerbate some of those illnesses.
It exists. It's just whether we can translate that into working with 10-year-old kids all the way up to, the college athletes back here.
It's no secret that today's social media, sports-related or not, intensifies expectations and anxiety for kids trying to perform or even just fit in.
And then they watch the responses and the expectations of people that are not involved in what they do, and that's difficult for them. Staying away to whatever degree you can would be my advice.
And one of DESIN's strongest tips is also one of his simplest. Sort out thoughts in a 25-cent journal.
Thoughts being put on paper, it's a good way to process things. Thoughts floating around in our head, we generally pick up on the negative stuff and we dwell on it.
And Scott Breen joining us now. Scott, great piece, great information for parents and for kids.
Yeah, and such a sensitive topic for so many, but it keeps the conversation rolling at this point.
And that's what we're going to do. September marks Suicide Prevention Month. We are going to talk more about this after the break and hear what Scott learned and his reaction to that information.
The MTN 530 News continues